Hello, this is Jody with Harvested Health, and I want to thank everybody for clicking and liking and sharing my podcasts. Today, what I want to talk about is enzymes, key factors that are in your healing and your health. I'm Jody Barnett with Harvested Health, and I'm a natural health care consultant, an orthomolecular nutrition coach, raw food coach. You can schedule appointments with me if you click on the links below. You can go to my webpage and see what some of the services are that I offer. But today, I want to talk about enzymes. What are enzymes? And many people say, well, aren't they automatically in the foods that we're eating? Well, yes and no. Depends on the heat and the temperature that your foods are cooked at. A lot of people are consuming what I call overcooked foods on a daily, regular basis. It's what they're eating for breakfast, lunch, dinner. When you're running through a fast food place, they've been cooked to death, so to speak. High temperatures of cooking destroys the natural occurring enzymes, and most of the food that we cook are at 350 degrees and higher. So when we're eating all these cooked foods, over time it leads to chronic diseases because the enzymes are so necessary. I like to call those our spark plugs of life for our bodies. So when we're thinking about I want to give you something to think about. When you're watching young children play, the 2-year-olds, the 3-year-olds, young animals like puppies or kittens, what is the one thing about all of them that stands out? Their energy. They're loaded with it. They've got all this energy. We look at little kids and say, oh my goodness, they have that kind of energy again, right? We see them playing and all this energy. Their little bodies have not been subjected to this overload of cooked foods to the extent that us adults have for a longer extended period of time. And I'm here to tell you that when we're eating a lot of enzyme-void foods, it has a direct effect on the very chemical nature in the blood that's flowing through your body, folks. So when the body is digesting all these cooked foods that are enzyme poor, it actually causes your body to produce something called leukocytosis. It's a pretty normal thing. Digestive leukocytosis is a dramatic increase in the amount of levels of white blood cells. We call them leukocytes, okay? And it shows up in the blood. So for many of us who have leaky gut syndrome, undigested cooked food elements are crossing through the gut in the intestinal wall. They get into the bloodstream. They're not supposed to be there. So what the body does is it produces these leukocytes to kind of go on the defensive and kill what's not supposed to be in the blood. Okay, that's as simple as I can know how to make it. So foods that are overcooked, so those of you that use slow cookers a lot, you're cooking it all day long, you're flaming it to death on the grill, those kind of things, you're going to be lacking a lot of those beneficial enzymes that your body needs to actually help digest or break down that food. Some of you are going to notice that you have digestive issues. Clients that I see, that's 90% of what they tell me their problem is, man, I bloat after I eat, I've got acid reflux, I just don't digest it, I don't feel good after I eat that, or I'm real fatigued or feel sleepy after I eat. Those are all signs and signals that your digestive system is saying, something's missing. And I'm going to tell you, it's enzymes, okay? So your body has to call in reinforcements when all of this is happening, and those reinforcements are those leukocytes. Yet when you're eating more raw or naturally fermented foods that contain a natural high amount of enzymes, your body doesn't have to call in for those reinforcements, okay? The leukocytes don't need to come to the rescue. Some of the fermented foods that are real healthy and beneficial, yogurts, kefirs, high in probiotic activity, that helps a lot of people. People that struggle with dairy products sometimes do okay doing these fermented foods from the milk culture. Try and get the ones that don't have the sugars and the artificial sugars in there. Get the plain and add your own fruit to it. The other would be sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is a really beneficial fermented food, yet you want to watch what you're buying. If it's canned, defeating the purpose because it had to be put into a cooker, a bath canner, pressure cooker, which high level of heat. So the enzymes are gone. You're getting a lot of fiber, but your body can't unlock the fiber without the cellulose, which was destroyed in the heat. The other is, there's refrigerated sauerkraut. You'll want to check the labels on those because a lot of the commercially sold ones are going to have preservatives, sodium benzoate, those kind of things in there. There's one of the better brands of raw sauerkraut that I love. A lot of your health food stores are going to carry them. It's called Wild Brine. And it'll be in the refrigerated section. They're in little short 6 to 8 ounce jars. Fabulous raw sauerkraut, cold packed, no preservatives. If your health food store doesn't carry it, talk to the manager, see if it's something they can get. Wild Brine. So moving on to another familiar one is like tempeh and miso, which are fermented soy products. A lot of people in other countries consume high amounts of these, especially the women. And let me tell you, folks, the women in some of these other countries, they don't suffer with the female issues that we do here in the United States. You know, the PMS, the menopause from hell. You know, the United States treats, you know, these transitions in a woman's body like an illness because so many of us, it affects us like an illness, okay? Because our hormones are so out of kilter. But the women that are consuming these fermented soy products aren't experiencing these symptoms. Why? Because they're high in enzyme, okay? Soy gets a bad rap in the good old US of A because of what's being used in the processed food. There's a lot of genetically modified soy products, you know, and yet the soy that's been untampered is really, really high in something called phytoestrogen, which a woman needs to balance the xenoestrogen, which is the bad stuff that's causing a lot of the confusion in our female bodies, okay? So it's also in a lot of highly processed foods, plastic, chemicals, thyroid imbalances. All of these are going to contribute to an overabundance of xenoestrogen in the body. So I want to encourage you to do some research on soy and see what you come up with on your own. But I want to ask you, has a natural physician ever told you to eat more pineapple because it was high in bromelain? Well, what's that? Well, bromelain is a very concentrated form of an enzyme. There's other tropical fruits that are high in concentrated enzymes, like mangoes, papayas. Your health food stores sell papaya tablets. It's sold in the digestive section, okay? Problem is, the very design of those enzymes are made by God in these fruits to help you digest the food that they were in, okay? So bromelain was meant to help you digest the pineapple. Papaya, same thing. So if you're taking bromelain to help you digest a hamburger, it's not really going to do the trick because it's not what it was designed for. So there's probably not a single person in today's world. I want to talk about the dreaded C word here for a second as well. So there's probably not a person in today's world that's not in some capacity been touched by cancer through a friend, loved one, or possibly themselves. Watching them struggle with some form of this cancer going all the way back to the 1930s, Dr. Max Wolf found a special substance in the blood of all the healthy people that was effective at destroying cancer cells. So when Dr. Wolf looked at his cancer patients, he realized that the special substance was either very low or missing in his cancer patients. So, and at the time, Dr. Wolf was one of the most celebrated doctors in his time who began to dig further into this theme deeper. He kind of coupled up with another doctor called, her name was Helen Benitez. She was a neurosurgeon from Columbia University. They performed thousands of tests together, and they were working on different enzyme mixtures, okay, and how using these enzymes were controlling inflammation, repairing degenerative disorders, even cancer cell breakdowns. So actually Dr. Wolf came up with an enzyme therapy that actually earned him a worldwide reputation. He developed a product called Wobenzyme, still sold today in a lot of health food stores. Stuff works really, really well. Then we had Dr. Edward Howell of Chicago. He did a study of the overuse of cooked and processed foods. He found that heating foods over 118 degrees for more than 15 minutes destroyed all the digestive enzymes in the food. Flash pasteurization, which is heating food at a high temp for a real short period of time, also destroys enzymes. Yet, you're being told that flash pasteurization is healthier. It's not, okay? The enzymes are still destroyed. Digesting enzymes only exist in raw foods. In order to digest that particular food, and all the raw food items come complete with the proper enzymes built right into that food to break that food down. Hence, each raw food is going to have a different set of enzymes. There's a wide variety out there. So, after Dr. Howell did all these years and years of extensive research, coming to the conclusion that all mammals have a pre-digestive stomach. This part's real important. He labeled it the food enzyme stomach. So in people, it's the uppermost part of the stomach called the fundus, or the cardiac portion. The enzymes found in the raw foods pre-digest the foods in this part of your stomach. So enzymes secreted from your saliva and other glands are going to pre-digest some of those cooked foods. The saliva has an enzyme. One of the enzymes in the saliva is called phytolin. It's produced specifically to help pre-digest carbohydrates when you're eating breads, pastas, anything that's considered a carbohydrate. So these enzyme productions within your body are delicate. They're subjected to proper production based on the proper pH balance in the body. It's complicated. So when you're consuming too much overprocessed, overcooked foods that are void of enzymes, enzymes now have to be supplied from your immune system, and the pancreas has to work overtime. So when this happens on a continuous basis, organs then show symptoms of disease, and over a period of time get to be overworked. Eventually, they break down. So the ratio of people being diagnosed, including our children, with diabetes is beginning to hit a staggering proportion. Also, another aspect to note is one of the medical procedures being performed today at a really high rate is this lap band surgery. Okay, that's for people who are considered to be obese. They can't seem to control their portion sizes that they're consuming at one sitting. So just to point something out, when this band is surgically put in place, it is put in that very location, that uppermost part of the stomach called the fundus, or the cardiac portion, where all the pre-digesting takes place when we eat something. Therefore, not only does the band shrink the size of the stomach so you feel fuller faster, it now inhibits the pre-digestion aspect as well. So many have commented on not being able to digest certain foods after they've had this procedure done. And yes, you can take digestive enzymes that are sold at a health food store to help begin, with the digestive process, but understand they are meant to work with your existing body's production of its own enzymes. They are watered-down versions of the real thing. So working alone on their own isn't going to stimulate the real thing the way God already put it in place for the digestion to take place for the things we're eating. So another pinnacle point I want to draw attention to is the stomach is a muscle, stretches. So if that overweight person was able to stretch out the stomach because they were overeating, which for many it's emotionally based or due to a chemical imbalance which interferes with the normal signals that say, hey, stop eating, I'm full. Over time, even after this lap band surgery, unless the problem is going to be successfully addressed, they're going to again be able to overcompensate. They're going to be able to overeat, coupled with the new problem of no available area for the pre-digestion to occur. So now you're going to have a twofold problem compiled with what you already tried to fix. So using surgery to compensate for a lack of willpower, or dealing with emotional reasons for why you might be overeating, or the types of food that one's reaching for that emotional comfort, it's never a perfect option for addressing a much bigger picture than just being overweight. The other thing is, sometimes when those signals are not being properly addressed chemically in the body because of the types of food that we're eating, it doesn't automatically shut that hunger off. So if you're eating a lot of high-calorie foods that aren't offering a lot of vitamins, minerals, and nutrition, you're going to feel hungry shortly thereafter, and hence that overeating process keeps coming into place because you're not eating healthy food. The other thing Dr. Howell posted is the law of adapted secretions of digestive enzymes. Basically what that's stating is, since our body is designed to maintain balance, your body will secrete exactly the right amount and type of digestive enzymes based on the type of food you're eating. So, if you're snacking on a piece of cheese, your body's going to release a fat-digesting enzyme. If you're swallowing a piece of bread, then it's going to release a starch-digesting enzyme. The other study that Dr. Howell did, and I found this to be fascinating, was he looked at zoos. Okay, so when zoos first came on the scene, they had a high death rate of the animals that were being brought into captivity because they were being fed on a purely cooked food regime. Okay, yet in the wild, everything they ate was going to be raw, including their meats. So by testing the animal's saliva, he found that the animals in the wild had very little enzyme or non-existent enzyme showing up in their saliva. In contrast with the animals that were in the zoos being fed cooked foods, they had a very high enzyme content in their saliva. So that supported his evidence that other organs had secreted enzymes to help with that food digestion. So when the diets were changed back to a mostly raw food enzyme content, the saliva in the animals was reduced and the death rate dropped significantly. So when we look at the numbers, even going back 40 or 50 years ago, childhood diabetes, obesity, asthma, allergies were rare, but today they affect millions. It's actually almost accepted as commonplace to hear parents state, oh, my son's got asthma or my daughter suffers from allergies. It's like there's no alarm. It's just almost accepted. They've got this, so I'm going to give them this to combat the symptoms and use medication to control these symptoms. But I believe the proof lays in the numbers, folks. The results of generations being fed excessive amounts of processed foods, overcooked foods. Enzymes are the key factor in health and healing. So their absence from the cooked foods, it appears to be produced in degenerative diseases, which seems to show itself stronger with each passing generation that's being raised on these predominantly cooked and processed foods. Advertising refers to many of these, as fast foods, yet I don't see how eating a raw apple is any less quick than scarfing down on a McDonald's hamburger. All raw, uncooked foods contain the exact types and amounts of enzymes necessary to digest them. So let me break it down. An enzyme is a protein molecule that actually speeds up the chemical reaction